All right, hello, and welcome to Upstairs Conversations. We are back with another podcast, Ashley and myself, and today we are with Nick Swinford.
That's right.
And then, of course, Hansen Anderson from...
Of course.
Of course, everybody knows Hansen. Nick is with not YoungLife. Yeah, YoungLife. That's right. YoungLife and Tyler, and yeah, man, we're just excited to have you here, ready to talk about this, and Hansen is also a part of YoungLife, so why not have the both of you here? It's awesome. So, how are you guys doing today?
Swell.
We're not playing the game anymore, Hansen, so you can use...
Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. It's good. Life's good.
Good deal. Spring break's going good for you guys?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Nick has some
Restful.
really exciting news to tell us, though. I mean, just go ahead and tell.
You talking about the baby?
Yeah.
Yeah, 4-week-old baby at the house.
All right.
Yeah.
Not getting much sleep at all.
Not much.
Yeah. Totally understand that.
Yeah, that's right.
Totally understand that. Well, cool. So I guess we're just going to get started. What's different about YoungLife now? So, spoiler alert, I went to YoungLife like 15 years ago. And it was relatively new here in Tyler. And so what's going on in YoungLife now?
Yeah, so you want what's different or what's going on now?
Let's go. Let's do what's different.
Okay, cool. So I have a background in a church ministry. I was a youth pastor for 6 years at a church. And when I came back to Tyler after living in Oklahoma and discovered YoungLife, knew about YoungLife but wasn't involved with YoungLife. But one of the things that I loved about YoungLife that I saw that was different than most student ministries or church ministries was that YoungLife volunteers are really pushed into going to where kids are at. So physical location, not spiritual locations. Yes, that comes up at some point, but really to show up at like soccer games where Hansen's going to be at and basketball games and holding the door open for students on any day of the week. And so I really feel like going to where they're at is pretty much the main difference. But then when you get into the stuff that we do on Monday nights, like club is where in a church setting, you're going to have more worship setting type things. We're going to be loud and up front with secular music that most of the students know. And then it's all going to whittle down or funnel down into a gospel presentation. So it's really geared towards maybe students who don't know the Lord in a spot where they can say, hey, I heard that song on the radio on my way over here. So just a different setting. Hansen, you think that's accurate?
I mean, I think a lot of people like get hung up on the fact that YoungLife isn't as often blatantly like about sharing. I mean, it's blatantly about sharing the gospel, but a lot of things it does isn't centered around things that the church would normally center its activities around.
Yeah.
But that's not the point of it. I mean, YoungLife isn't the end goal. The end goal is to get kids plugged into church. So, I mean, it's supposed to be somewhat different for kids who don't come from a Christian home.
Yeah.
So, can we go back a little bit? How did you get plugged into YoungLife? What did somebody invite you? Did you just hear about it?
I mean, honestly, there's good and bad, and it's kind of changed even while I've been at Legacy. But I mean, honestly, like my freshman year, it was kind of just a place where all the cool kids would go.
Okay.
But
so it was on campus.
No.
Oh.
It's at First Christian Church on Monday nights. Club. I first went to club.
Okay.
And honestly, it used to just kind of be like a place for cool kids to hang out.
Okay.
But I mean, that's not necessarily a bad thing because it got kids that wouldn't normally hear the gospel to go.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's how I first went. But also my brother went. And that's where he really became a believer as well.
Your older brother, right?
My older brother.
Yeah. Okay. And then, so freshman year was when you started?
Yeah.
And then you were just kind of going because what hooked you?
I had a YoungLife leader named Clark Crawford. And so Hubbard Middle School has Wildlife, which is like the middle school version.
Yeah.
And so they already had kind of a group of kids that were real solid in with their leader, who's Corey Hudson, whose dad is a member here, an elder.
Oh, okay.
What's his name? Kirk.
Oh.
Yeah.
I did not realize that. Okay.
So Kirk's son, Corey, is my YoungLife leader. And he already was involved with this group of guys from Hubbard, and then I kind of became friends with them. And so that's like our grades YoungLife group.
Okay.
Nice. I did not realize that. I also didn't realize that Hubbard, I didn't know YoungLife went down to middle school as well.
Yeah, so we have a wildlife program that's 6th through 8th grade.
That's a really smart name for it, honestly. That's why it's funny because it's a really good name for it. So because I know whenever I was in say involved in Young Life, but whenever I would go, I don't remember there being like a middle school style program, at least here in Tyler, whenever I was growing up. So was that something that's recent?
Yeah, so Wildlife started 9 years ago in Tyler.
Okay.
Yeah, so Young Life's been in Tyler for 80 years.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
then Wildlife started 9 years ago.
Okay.
So that's the first of middle school ministry that's been in Tyler as far as Young Life is concerned.
Okay. And so, like, how far out do you guys like reach? Like, is there a certain? Do you have like a certain like city that you're located in, or is it just all of East Texas, or how does that work?
Yeah, so we're based in Tyler. It is mostly Tyler kids. We have a few that come from White House. I know that they'll show up occasionally on Monday nights and are occasionally involved in our campaigners, which is small groups, and but it is predominantly focused on Tyler. And then as Wildlife is focused on the middle schools in Tyler, and we're in 3 middle schools: 3 Lakes, Hubbard, and then I forgot the other one.
Oh.
Do you know?
Fired.
Yeah,
I thought it was just those two.
maybe it is just those 2. Hansen knows more than I do.
Yeah, you've only been there how long?
Yeah, a year.
Yeah.
So,
So I get it. That's fine. I don't know names of things.
more.
And how long have you been here?
It's more. That's the other one.
Oh, they did start it at
Yeah.
Moore? They didn't
Okay.
have it at Moore when I went to Moore.
Okay. Yeah, so that's exciting to hear, especially for having a middle school kind of like just ministry like that. So you guys meet at First Christian. How long have you been at First Christian? Like, how did that kind of all get started?
Yeah, so from what I understand, they've been at First Christian for over a decade.
Okay, because
So-
I remember I feel like we used to meet at like the Petroleum Building, like downtown.
Yes, that was.
That
Yes.
was, yeah, and it was not and I think we met on Monday nights as well for like, I don't know what I guess it was called Club back then. I don't know what it was called, but let's just say it was the group that I was going with, because the cool kids also went when I was at Legacy, and we were not doing very holy things in parking lots and just like in and around there. So
Yeah.
I'm honestly, it's awesome that you've had someone to hook onto, because I don't recall there being like a small group kind of a time
Sure.
whenever I was growing up. So is that, I mean, here in GSM, like we are very like heavily focused on like our small groups, because we really want, like that's Nick, myself, Ashley, like we can only do so much for so many students, but their small group time is something that we really cherish. So is that kind of like the same vision kind of for you guys?
So Hansen said it best. The goal for Young Life is to take a kid who's far from God and get him into church.
Okay.
So we end with church, but the way the Young Life does that is through a process, and they call it the C's. You know, every good ministry has a branding, right? So
Yeah.
they do it through club, campaigners, contact work, and then we plug them into the church. So contact work is actually the physical act of going out and holding the door open in the morning, going to the football games, going to the soccer games, all that stuff, of meeting kids where they're at, the lunchroom, wherever it is. And then we invite them to club. Hey, come to club on Monday night or whenever Young Life's club is, and our Wildlife meets on Thursday nights. And so invite them there, and then we ask them to plug into a campaigner where that becomes more on one-on-one. So Corey Hudson is his Young Life leader. They do campaigners together. And so from there, the goal is kids that aren't plugged in, aren't involved in a church somewhere, is like, hey, come to church with me, or let me show you this really great church that I think would be great for you to go to. And so that really is, Hansen, I mean, beautifully said it. The goal for Young Life is to get them plugged into a church somewhere.
Okay.
So you said club got you in with cool kids, and then you.
That sounds so bad.
No, it's fine. I think sometimes kids come here just because it's like a cool place to hang out, and that's totally like Jesus can use whatever. So you got plugged in at club, then you met your leader who just like showed up at soccer games and stuff, held doors, did all the things. So once you get plugged in with them, are small group nights a different night than club nights?
Yeah,
or,
so we call it campaigners.
yeah.
And
Is it
my group used to meet on Wednesdays for the longest time.
Okay.
So my Young Life leader passed away 2 years ago, Clark, and it was him and Corey together. And so we used to just meet at like Fresh usually, and now we meet at Corey's house.
Okay.
on, like,
So it's
Thursday
just whatever works best for everybody. It's
yeah,
just
each
kinda-
campaigners group decides their own.
What do y'all do during the campaigners' time?
So for us, a typical night would be, it starts kind of late. We go at like 9 or 9:30
Oh,
to
okay.
Corey's house, and
Yeah.
I mean, we'll walk in. He'll usually have like some food for us.
That's always a win. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, we'll hang out for a bit. Maybe playing video games. There's usually like anywhere from like 8 to like sometimes we have like even 20 kids at his house.
Wow.
And then he'll kind of sit us down, get us to turn everything off, and then he'll usually like we were reading through Romans like over the last couple months.
Okay.
We'll just read and then we'll talk about that and kind of open up the floor. Because a lot of kids who come to that never talk about spiritual things or read their Bible or anything. So it's good for them to actually get to think about it and then talk about it.
Y'all read it together there and then talk about it there?
Yeah.
Or is it something like you do over the week?
He'll read it for us there.
Oh,
and then,
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. Is that like your favorite?
It's a normal small group.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I kind of figured that, but I just, it's fine.
So obviously, like, we're kind of tied into like Grace Community School, whether it's middle school or high school, even here at the old Jacksonville campus. And so, was it like easier or harder, you feel like, to get plugged into a public school whenever doing spiritual things?
Sure. When I came on in the spring of last year, towards the end, there was a transition in leadership. So I was really nervous about, like, I had met the principal that was there and I'd started a relationship with him. So I was nervous with the transition of, are they going to let us on? I mean, we're in a post-COVID world where people are sometimes worried and sometimes they're not. It just depends on where you go. And so when I met Dr. Walls, she pretty much gave us an open floor, open door policy, just as long as people were doing what they were supposed to do, like checking in at the front door. And I mean, she gives you the whole school spill. This is a school, remember, church and state, all that good stuff. But it's relationship. It's not any different than when a kid shows up on a Wednesday night. You're just starting a relationship with them, remembering their name, remembering what they like to eat at lunch, that kind of stuff. And so to answer your question, I thought it was going to be more difficult than it was, but it was actually easier, and the Lord had a lot of favor in it. But there's a lot of prayer that goes into what we do in Young Life and Tyler, and every Wednesday you can find all the Young Life staff around a table, and we spend an hour in prayer just over Young Life Tyler and asking the Lord to expand our territory and giving us that kind of favor. And he really just showed up. He's really just showed up in all those areas as we've ventured into more schools, like the more middle school and 3 Lakes and stuff like that.
Awesome.
So since you said that you worked at a church for 6 years, youth pastor, right?
Yeah.
High school, junior high?
I did both.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well then. After that, so did you go to school for that? Is that something that just kind of happened after school? Like, how did you get plugged into ministry?
Yeah, that's a great question. I actually had no desire to be in ministry. And I was going to school, degrees in music. So that might give you a little insight to our game earlier. That's mostly what I think.
We could have used your name.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So I really had plans to be doing music, playing music full time. I thought, had a band. We were gonna make it.
Okay, what kind of band?
Country, of course.
Oh, all right.
That's right.
Is there an album out there floating around?
Yeah,
Can we look it up on Spotify?
Listen to it. You can absolutely look it up on Spotify.
He play it through our head.
I know. Yeah.
No, you don't need to do that. It's terrible.
Just go ahead and name drop, and then I'll look it up later.
I'll tell you afterwards.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, so I thought music was going to be it. I thought, I was set on track, and there were some really big life wrecks that happened because of the music industry and because of my involvement in the music industry, and really hit rock bottom. I woke up really feeling alone, and like all the people who said they were my friends were actually not my friends at all.
Yeah.
And so I knew the Lord. I was not pursuing the Lord. And when I got to that spot, I was dating my wife at the time, and I can remember just vividly having a conversation with her saying, I can't do this anymore. Like, this is not the life I was needing to do. I worked a full-time job and did music because music doesn't pay the bills. And because I wasn't Randy Houser, right, from our game earlier. Sure. Not a big country music star. And so I really got my life right. I really started pursuing Christ. And I knew then that it needed to be different than what it looked like when I was growing up. We used church as a mask. It was also a checkbox, and that didn't feel right, and I didn't feel like that's really what we were called to. And even when I was diving more into Scripture in that time of putting myself in front of people who knew the Lord and still were pursuing me, even though they knew the life that I was living, if that makes sense. And
Yeah.
about 8 months after that, I got a call from a guy in Tyler. He said, "Hey, man, we are looking for a youth pastor, and your name keeps coming up." And I'm like, "Nah, I think you got the wrong guy. Like, I don't think that's right." And he said, "Well, at least do me a favor and pray about it." And so I started praying about it, and he said, "Will you come meet?" And I said, "Yeah, absolutely, I'll come meet." And so came and met him. And when I came down and met with him and his wife, it just felt different. It really felt like a calling. I could say that's like the first time I felt a calling on my life, if that makes sense. And told my girlfriend at the time, as we were going back home, she was actually my fiance then. So I said, this feels like a calling, but I still want to pray about it. So we prayed about it for a couple more weeks, almost a month, and it was just evident that this was where the Lord was leading us. And so we came back to my hometown of Tyler to work in a church, and here we are.
So the church that you were at for 6 years was in Tyler?
That's right.
Oh.
Yeah.
For some reason, I thought it was in Oklahoma.
No, I worked at a camp in Oklahoma after church, yeah.
Gotcha.
What camp?
Camp Wow, walk on water.
Can you?
Get it? Walk on water. Wow.
Please tell me that's what your like promotion video is.
It should be.
Just you saying it just like that.
We're still on spring break, so Hansen hasn't really gone back into school yet.
No. I have
Yeah,
not.
but we're still on spring break time. So Hansen, so you said that club got you there. You're campaigners, and then what's after campaigners?
Church.
Church. And so now obviously you're involved here at Grace, but how have you noticed that your small group leader has really like pushed you to bring some of your friends to church, or even bring some of your friends to Young Life?
Definitely, like when he comes to our school, like our lunch table, there would be like 4 guys that do go to Young Life, and then the other kids that we're sitting with, he's definitely trying to get them to come to club and campaigners. And then just like in our daily walk with Christ, always texting us, like especially those who are really trying to pursue the Lord, giving us more things to read, books to read, and then just praying for us and really texting us, reminding us, make sure you're going to church if this is really what you say you believe. Mm-hmm. I mean, not that it's a checkbox, but it's somewhere you should be if you're a believer. Yeah.
So how do you feel like that's prepared you for, like, you're a senior, so this is your last year, so how do you feel like that's prepared you for next year and for your life going forward?
Well, just the way that I make friends and how I try to portray myself to my friends in a Christ-like manner. Because my Young Life leader has urged me to like try and get other kids to come to Young Life, I feel like I'm prepared to, like in college, I feel like it's helped me like learn how to share the gospel.
Yeah.
That's great.
Like, a lot.
Yeah. Is that like something that y'all talked about in small group or during what's the club?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Did we talk about the gospel or talk about sharing the gospel?
Yeah, like did you like go through something that taught you how to do it really well, or did you just see
There's just a lot of great examples.
Yeah, like him being at school and stuff helped. That's super cool. Yeah. I like that it's like the idea is for him to walk through life with you and not necessarily just sit down and teach you what to say or teach you how to do it, because there's like, when I was growing up, it was like the Romans Road, or like there are all these different ways to like teach people how to teach people about Jesus, or like teach people how to like quickly do something, quickly like tell somebody about the Lord. But I think it's really cool that y'all focus more on like the lifelong situation of, okay, I'm going to walk through junior high and high school with you.
Well, when a Young Life leader, I mean, they're supposed to commit for 4 years of high school, and then even Corey started when they were in 6th grade.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
So I've had Corey for 4 years now. Some of those guys have been with Corey for 7 years.
Wow.
Yeah, and that's a huge difference. And not that the Roman Road is bad if that's all the time you have or whatever. I just think it's like really cool to show you to like walk through life with somebody, and like there's going to be ups, there's going to be downs, there's going to be times when your life is crazy and maybe you don't sit with him at lunch or whatever because you've got stuff going on. But he's constant, and he's there, and he's available, and he's not just telling you what to do, but he's showing you how to do it. And I think that's just a really cool way to teach somebody. And I think we kind of, at church, sometimes I think we're getting better at it now. But when I was growing up, we kind of veered away from doing the hard work, doing the consistent work, being there, being present, and just trying to like show people how to do things quickly, or doing seminars to tell people how to do things, but not like just being there and doing it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have, campaigner leaders that are they're not necessarily in Young Life anymore, that are performing weddings for their Young Life guys. And,
That's really sweet.
they're asked to come to the hospital when babies are born. I mean, like, this is,
Yeah.
it's truly a relational deal. Even like when you just get connected with somebody for 4 years, you don't want to lose track with them. You want to stay
Yeah.
right there with them. And I think that for Corey, and especially if Clark was still around, Clark was super relational. And but for you, Corey's going to be lifelong.
And so you met. I'm sorry, Ashley.
Oh, I was just going to see if Hansen was willing to tell us like your testimony, kind of like, I know you started like freshman year going. I know you've been plugged in at Grace for a while, but just kind of like when the light switch turned on, when you were just like, oh, I get it. Oh, this is, what I want to do, pursue. This is how I want to live, like that type of thing. When that switched, and kind of just like the difference.
Yeah, so, I mean, my family's a Christian family. I have two great examples as parents. So I kind of grow up knowing the gospel.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't really apply myself to the gospel until really like 7th and 8th grade. I mean, y'all know Cameron Stanley.
Mm-hmm. Awesome human.
Yeah. I mean, hanging out with him, that's when I really, started taking it more seriously, for sure. And then honestly, ever since I started Young Life, like, I really kind of saw it more as like, I want to introduce my friends to the gospel that don't know Christ.
Yeah.
Like, I wasn't going to Young Life like in a sense of like, oh, I'm interested in Christ. I already knew who Christ was and I was a believer, but I wanted to introduce my friends to Christ and my friends that aren't believers. And I've been able to do that, which is really cool.
That's awesome. I love that.
Did you find it harder to do that? I mean, it's the majority of our students here are, private school kids that go to Grace Community School. And so at some level, it's kind of easy to kind of have that conversation of, or have a gospel-like conversation with them in their classrooms or in their setting, like at school. But like, was that hard for you to kind of be able to do that, navigate through that?
I guess it wasn't, because if I could get them to Young Life, then from there I knew I'd be able to just like have the cojones to just share the gospel with them.
Yeah,
and getting them there wasn't that hard, because it's a really fun atmosphere, and like I said, like the cool kids are there, whatever. There's girls. Food a lot of times. That's
what else do you need in high school?
And it's a Monday night. People don't have sports on Monday night.
Right.
They don't have all this, and I feel like in Young Life small groups, like in a small group in a church setting, you have to be very comfortable with your leader to get like real nitty gritty with them. And even though it's not supposed to be that way, it just is innately, especially if you haven't been going a lot.
Right.
And I feel like because Young Life isn't at church, people are honestly I feel like just like in my campaigners groups, I've seen it's like easier for kids to just jump straight in and get opened really fast. And even I know a lot of private school kids. We have a lot of private school kids that come to Young Life.
Okay.
And like at camp, I saw a lot of private school kids that I've even known coming here, and I had never seen them get that real, because here, they're just saying all the right answers, stuff they know, and then there they were really opening up. And
we noticed that too. So it's definitely, that's awesome that Young Life's able to like get to that kind of level so quick, but also like not be like, have your friends not be afraid to like share, and not feel like they're going to be judged or looked at any differently. So I think that's really awesome.
How have you seen it change? This might be a weird question, but just curiosity's sake, how have you seen it change as far as like going and getting people to come with you, like before you were able to drive versus after you were able to drive? Because I feel like even growing up in my youth group in here, there's like a change and a shift when you can drive yourself and there are other things to do or other places to be, and you can get yourself there versus your parents driving you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So my grade's a little interesting. We used to have big commitment. My grade had a lot of people come, and then COVID happened.
Yep.
And so that happened, and then Clark, our Young Life leader, who we were all really close with, he passed away. And when it restarted, the numbers just weren't the same. Everyone, I mean, a lot of kids didn't want to go after losing him. It was really hard for a lot of us. And since then, it's numbers to club haven't been the best for my grade especially. But it is good, though, that those numbers have stayed the same in campaigners and even more.
Yeah.
Like, they don't necessarily want to go to club. They're seniors. Some of them feel like they're too mature for it even. Mm-hmm. And a lot of them work. They've got jobs. But most of the guys in my grade, I mean, they can't ask off for it every night of the week. So, I mean, they can't go to club, but they sacrifice that and they ask off for work for campaigners, where we actually have, like, a lot of people come.
And that's the one that's later.
Yeah. It's like at like 9 on
And that's
Thursdays.
Yeah. But that like allows for a lot of, people to come that probably wouldn't be able to. When y'all were younger, was it earlier?
Yeah, I was like 7.
Now I was like, it's fine. They're not going to sleep anyway. That's great.
So, Young Life. So you're at 3 middle schools here in Tyler. Are you at Tyler High and Legacy as well?
Yeah, so we actually have a separate club that happens at Tyler High.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and it actually meets on campus, and it's earlier in the evening on Mondays. So they meet at 5:47, and they're in the cafeteria on Monday nights. So we have a guy that is over ministry there, and they have a whole separate team and doing the whole thing over there as well.
Wait, who's the head of John Tyler or Tyler High now that
Big Chris.
Chris is the head of it?
Yeah.
I love
Not medium Chris, big Chris.
Oh, it's Big Chris.
For sure, Big Chris. Yeah, that's great.
So
what's the thought behind the two? Is it like, if you go to this one, don't come to this one? Or is it like, if you go to this one, you can still come to this? Like, what's that dynamic?
It's a lot of accessibility. And it really has a lot to do with socioeconomical status of either location. And a lot of times for the kids that are coming from Legacy, it's easier for them to get there. And when we do all city clubs and Tyler High joins us, there's a lot of rides given. And so that's how they can come to club.
Yeah.
Is with a ride. And so that's really why it's on campus and earlier, so kids can stay around and be a part of that. So they try to make it as early as possible, but also later than possible, so like volunteer leaders can show up and be a part and be involved. And so it really had to do with that. There was a season when they put the clubs together, when they combined, and they lost traction on both sides of it. Even though I think it's something that would be great for Tyler to have that unity among young people. But then when they split, the Tyler High side was able to grow a lot more, and then the consistency of meeting at First Christian with the Legacy people came back in, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's great. I figured there was a reason. I was just going to let you say it.
Sure.
Yeah.
So over at that campus on that side, are they in the middle schools over like at Bolter or at Stewart yet, or?
So they are not.
Okay.
Yeah, what we try to do before we move into a new ministry is have enough volunteer leaders that can handle the contact work.
Well, they are a little bit more. More goes to Tyler High.
Oh, they do?
Oh, cool.
Well, I didn't realize that. So
Awesome.
There you go.
All right.
That answered he knows more than I do.
There you go.
You should have known that. You could grow up here.
Yeah, well, I mean, like, it's different. I totally understand, like, splitting off because of, like, it's hard for, like, if it was at Tyler High and I was at Legacy, like, it'd be hard for me to, like, from my house in Flint, go all the way up to Tyler High. So I totally understand that. So what's the deal? I've never understood this. Like, you start at, what time do you start on Mondays?
7:27.
Yeah.
7.
Yeah. What's up with that?
Because you don't forget it.
That's right.
If I told you to meet at First Christian at 7:27 for 2 weeks in a row, you would never forget the time 7:27.
That's right.
Okay.
And back on, right before we were talking about this with the split campuses, we go to camp together, and after going to camp, we, like, kids from Legacy and kids from Tyler High, we became so close, and we're still all hanging out.
That's right.
We play basketball together, like, every weekend. I've gone to Black Church with some of them multiple times. It's been so fun, and I've brought Isaiah.
Yeah.
I've brought Isaiah here too.
That's awesome.
It's been fun.
So camp, what is that like for you guys?
Oh man, it's the best week of your life, right?
Do y'all put it on, or do y'all go somewhere?
No, we go somewhere. So this past year actually was my first ever Young Life camp experience, and I actually got to go with Hansen. Hansen was in my cabin. He was at my dinner table every night. It was
How'd that go?
with Hansen. It's incredible. That's actually one of my favorite stories to tell about camp. So we showed up super late, and we were way late. Just bus issues and all the things that happen with camp. We're in Fraser, Colorado, so that's to the west of Denver.
How long of a drive is that?
How long should it have taken, or how long did it take?
Yes.
We sat on a McDonald's parking lot for like 2.5 hours.
Me
like
too.
us. Yeah.
Sorry.
That's like our camp
Sorry, that
experience
was
too.
loud. But we were there for 7, so gotcha.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they made us so many free cookies. We had so many chocolate chip cookies. It was great.
So it's supposed to take 19 hours.
Okay.
We did it in 26. So it was a little bit of a fiasco.
Did y'all take like charter buses?
Yeah, we took 2 charter buses last year. We had 75 spots, and we took 72 people.
Awesome.
It was incredible.
And those broke down?
They did not break down. There
Oh.
were just miscommunications and slow moving. Our bus showed up an hour and a half late.
Oh.
So it's like we were in Amarillo when we should have been in Colorado already. It was like that kind
all
of
right.
stuff. Like,
Wow.
yeah, it was pretty rough. But we got there. Right?
Are they allowed to drive 19 hours straight, or do they have
No,
to?
they switched. They switched in Amarillo.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
So we show up in Young Life Camp they do camp well. Have experience in camp ministry as well, and seen a bunch of camps since I was, in middle school and high school. And we showed up the first night, and I don't know if you remember this or not, but we had steak and potatoes. Who serves steak and potatoes? At
Oh, that's
camp?
like a thing. It's like
That's
like,
incredible.
Young Life
We're at the
food is
wrong
like-
camp.
it's
All
good.
right, Nick, I'm out. I'm
Yeah,
going with
we're going
them.
to Young Life camp.
No, it's when all the charter buses pull in, it's a bunch of Young Life kids that work the camps too, and
Oh.
they
That's
all
awesome.
come out, like all 200 of them, whatever, greeting you, and banging on your bus, everything. It's a whole ordeal.
That's cool though.
It's-
And then you have steak and potatoes after that. So
Yeah.
Man, they ushered us into the kingdom.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about.
Better than I eat at home.
That's right.
Jeez. Is it like that every night, or is it just like here's steak and potatoes first night, and then you have pizza the rest of
Oh,
the week?
no,
I don't know.
every
No.
night is good.
Really?
Every
What?
meal is good. Every meal is all you can eat.
Okay, I
It's
take
like,
back
it's like
the whole.
family style. They serve you at the table.
Yeah.
So where's
that's-
the camp located?
Okay, 19 hours is doable.
They're all over the country.
They're all over the, okay.
Young Life has, I think, 32 camp locations.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, they just
Wow.
opened up a new one in South Texas, which is where we're going this year.
Awesome.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, that fixed that problem.
Yeah.
7 hours away.
Yeah,
It'll
there
probably
you go.
still take 15 or so.
You need to get one of those charter bus places that have like questionable reviews because they drive in the median, but they get you there on time.
Maybe a little early.
Yeah. We're ahead of schedule. That's a good problem, though.
What's cool about Young Life Camp is they try and keep a lot of it like a secret, what's going to happen there.
Oh.
But it's like traditions that are like, so my grandpa became a Christian at Young Life Camp,
Oh,
Oh,
that's
wow.
cool.
and he met my grandma like doing Young Life stuff. And like when they went to camp like in the 60s, they
Yeah.
did like the same, I can't spoil anything. They did like the same like skits and stuff
You're too
Really?
good, man. You're too
that
good.
we literally did in 2 years ago.
That's
And it's still relevant.
Yeah, it's still relevant.
That's so. Is it just kind of like one of those things that if you don't know, you don't know, and then you finally get to do it, and you're like, oh my gosh, I finally get to do this thing. I finally get
Yeah.
to see these
Well,
skits
it's
or whatever.
because like especially like Young Life is not affiliated with the church, but
Yeah.
even kids that go to camp, they're like it's still like church.
Yeah.
And so they get there and then they do things that you would not expect a church to do. Not even like I'm not saying like things that are bad, but just like things that are going to happen to you at 3 a.m,
Oh.
Oh.
stuff like that, where it's like that did not just happen. They're like, you probably know what I'm really thinking of. I'll just say the train.
Train. Yeah.
Ooh.
The train.
I'm very interested.
My mind is going.
But,
Yeah.
but you're not supposed to tell. If you go to camp, you're not supposed to tell the younger people.
How do they
what
keep you
happens at
from
Young
telling?
Life camp stays at Young Life camp.
But yeah.
Yeah, but how do you get that many kids to just not talk about it?
I mean, they do, but like
Oh,
most people don't.
I was about to say I can't even. Never mind. It's fine. It's fine.
So your camp experience was your first one was this past year.
Yeah, it was my first time there, and it's just so Young Life is based on excellence, which is a word that people throw around a lot, but I think sometimes we sacrifice something on the altar of excellence so we can do it easier. And so, but Young Life pulls out all the stops. So when you go to a Young Life camp, it's like, and this is things that I don't think people are aware of, but they have a progression of talks that you go through the week. And so when you're walking to the club room, because we do club at Young Life Camp, which is church service, and when you walk into the club room, like the flowers walking to the club room change colors every night based on the talk that's happening.
Oh.
So somebody comes after club when nobody's there, and they come and put out new flowers based on the next talk the next day. And they're like, there's black flowers when we talk about sin, and there's red flowers when we talk about the cross. And so it's just kind of like everything is, if you're paying close enough attention, everything is super intentional.
There's so like every like inch of that camp is like for a purpose.
It's like a Christian Camp Disney World almost.
It's so sick.
It is a resort for students.
Yeah, it's
That
like,
is so cool.
I mean, I've heard of like how Disney does things, and so like my wife read a book called "If Disney Ran Like Healthcare," like how on top of like healthcare and things like that would be, and so it's kind of like that same mentality of just like even like some of the like changing the flowers, like it's little things like that,
That's right.
but it in the grand scheme of things, it makes such a huge impact.
It's because they use child labor.
Ah,
I'm kidding. It's because work crew. They get unless you've been to camp, but
okay.
I mean everyone wants to do work crew because that's a whole other thing. I'm gonna try and do it this summer.
Hey,
There you go.
check you out. At the new one or at the other one?
Do you get to like put your top 3? Did I miss the deadline for that?
No, dude, we got you.
Sorry.
No, you like put like your top 3 choices of what
Okay.
camp you're on, and then they kind of just put you on one of them.
Oh.
Yeah,
What would your top choice be?
Malibu.
Oh, okay.
well,
Well, I didn't
fair.
know that was an option. Okay.
It's really not. There's no way I'll get that.
Oh.
I don't know. Frontier Ranch. That's in Colorado. That's
Is
like
that the
one of
one-
the old ones.
Oh,
Okay.
is that the one that y'all drove to?
No, we went to
There's 2 in
Crooked Creek.
Colorado.
Crooked. Okay.
So you want to go to one that you've never been to before?
Yeah.
Oh. Well, I mean, I don't know. Is
Go new places.
is the new one the one on your hat, the Lone Hollow Ranch?
yeah, that's right.
Utopia?
Lone
That's
Hollow
It's
Ranch.
huge. Isn't it like one of the biggest ones?
It's pretty big. I don't know how it compares acreage wise.
I'm pretty sure it's pretty big.
Does Young Life just buy out old camps and
The way they do it, they fundraise for like a camp location. So Lone Hollow was an old running camp that needed to be sold, and so the lady that was selling it called Young Life and said, "Hey, we like Young Life. We love Young Life.
that's great.
Do you want to buy this?"
Yeah.
And so then they meet and come together and talk about it and pray about it, and they fundraised and bought Lone Hollow Ranch in like a year and a half.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, it was crazy.
That's insane.
It's nuts.
I think that's so cool that the reputation, I guess, of Young Life goes before you so well that people like in Utopia, Texas, is what his hat says. Know, do y'all have a presence down there, or did she just hear? Like, either way, she like knew of your presence or your existence and liked it so much she was like, "Hey, I'd like to sell to y'all."
Yeah. So we have a presence all over the state of Texas.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
it's pretty big. So like I'm new on staff, and I'm going through new staff training with 9 other people, and they're just in the Northeast Texas region.
Oh,
So I-35 Dallas to Louisiana.
Okay.
So we're all going through that together. So they hire a lot of people just everywhere. Every year. So I went to new staff training in Georgia in January, and there was over 200 people there in person, and there was I think another 200 online.
Wow.
So it's a lot.
And then do you think about for each person there, they're representing at least at least 25 more volunteers.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's awesome. So how many? I mean, obviously, Young Life's not just a Texas thing. So like, I mean, how many? Like, is it? It's like
It's
worldwide. Is it
everywhere.
U.S.?
Yeah, all 50
Yeah.
states,
Okay.
102 countries.
Oh.
And
can you name them all?
no,
Just thought I'd ask.
yeah, Hansen probably can.
Test.
Wow.
I don't know. So all 50 states,
Yeah.
countries, like, and so was this conference or was this new staff training from just all over the state or all over the states or all over the world or?
So this was all over the states.
Okay.
Yeah, this was just the United States. And actually, fun fact, Young Life Africa has more students involved in Young Life than all of the United States.
Hey, shout out Africa.
Yeah,
That's
and
sick.
They're like 10 or 12 years old. I'm gonna misquote that, so don't hold that to me.
Tom
but-
Ramey's gonna come for you.
Yeah, he is. He knows. He's already listening.
His spidey senses are like heightened. Somebody said something wrong. That's funny.
Yeah, so
I think it's awesome too that you still you're involved with Young Life, but you're also still involved with GSM, and the fact that you're able to get poured in just by multiple different people throughout the week. I think that's really awesome.
If he stopped coming here, I'm pretty sure they'd kick him out. The last step is church. Tell them you kick him out.
kick him out. Of church. Kick him out of Young Life.
I'm pretty sure that's not
Been
legal.
banished.
Yeah. Okay, so you have your person that you've been with for 4 years there. How long have you been with Rob here?
Like three.
Okay.
I've gone through my leaders here at GSM.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I get that. So that's where my question was going to lead. What's the impact and the difference on comfortability and just kind of like, I don't know, just the comfort that you have with your leader? Is there a huge difference in somebody that you've been with for 4 years or longer versus somebody that came in with 3 years? Like how has that longevity changed your relationship?
I mean, for me, I honestly don't really care. I'll open up to most people pretty quickly. But
Yeah.
for other kids, definitely, there's a huge difference.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, he's been there forever. And Corey went to Legacy. I mean, he graduated in like 2014, 16, something like that, pretty recently. So
Yeah. Okay.
a lot in common. It's kind of like talking to a big brother almost.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
Awesome. So, Nick, I have to ask about the story of Jesus healing the paralyzed man
Why's that?
on the mat. That was what Big Nick told me to ask you.
Oh, yeah, carrying the mat.
Yeah.
We all have a corner.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
So explain that. Explain that to us.
So this is totally stolen. Like,
Theory.
I just really like it. So
All right.
I'm just going to use it. So basically, the story of the paralyzed man, when we see him, we see these four people pick him up. That doesn't say that they're friends or whatever. They just may have been bystanders that said, yeah, we'll take you over to Jesus, right? And Jesus is crowded in a room. And so they take him up to the roof. And I mean, you can put yourself there if you're reading the text and see, there's probably stuff starting to fall down. And there's these four guys that lower this man. And the way it was said is, it was at Young Life Banquet this past year by our friend Nate Hill. He said, we all have a corner of the mat to hold up. And so Young Life is holding up a corner, but we also believe in Young Life that the church has a corner too. And we also believe the volunteer leader has a corner. And we also believe these students that show up to Young Life and that show up to GSM, that they have a corner of the mat to hold up as well. And it's like, Nick and I have talked about just cross unity, intercultural unity from parachurch organizations such as Young Life to, the church itself, such as Grace, and really just seeing it's not they're better or we're better. It's they have that corner and I have this corner. And so we're just really working together there's a lot of paralyzed men in our life. There's a lot of paralyzed students in our life. And so we see it as an opportunity to hold our corner of the mat. And I just love that analogy because we don't know if they knew that man or not, but they were willing to go there with him. Right. And so that's our goal in ministry, is to hold our corner of the mat. And I know that's GSM's goal, is to hold their corner of the mat too. And so it's just a really beautiful imagery of the body of Christ coming together to put people at the feet of Jesus, right?
Yeah. Awesome. Wow. I think that's a great way to end it, honestly. That's awesome. Well, Nick, thank you for coming. Hansen, thank you as well. You guys have been awesome. Let everybody know about Young Life when you guys meet and how they can get plugged in.
727.
7:27 on Monday.
Don't forget. That's right.
Yeah, so you don't forget.
I did it, guys.
There you go.
Yeah, so South Tyler Ministry meets 7:27 at First Christian on Monday, and North Tyler Ministry meets at 5:47 on Mondays at Tyler High, and then our Wildlife meets at 6. Man, I'm terrible at this.
6:26. Oh, 46. I knew there was something weird.
That's right. And they also meet at First Christian, but they meet on Thursday nights.
Okay.
So middle school ministry was on Thursday, and all high school. And then you can find us on Instagram. That's where we try to keep updated of times and changes and stuff like that. And so
Is it just Young Life Tyler?
Yeah, you'll just type in Tyler Young Life and we'll be
Young
there.
Life. All right.
And then we have a website. You Google Tyler Young Life, it'll take you there.
Awesome. That sounds good. Well, hey, thank you guys for coming. We really appreciate it. Hansen, any last words?
No.
All right.
He thought
There we
about it.
go.